I have a confession. I've never started the Toastmasters Pathways program. I know what you're thinking. What a fraud! Who is this guy who puts out YouTube content about how great Toastmasters is, and he hasn't even done the Pathways program? Now, I've been a Toastmaster for more than 9 years, and I did do some of the early education manuals. I completed the Competent Communicator manual. I completed the Competent Leadership manual. And then my progress was partway through the next steps of the program, and everything changed. Toastmasters decided that it was going online to the Pathways program, and I don't know what it was. Perhaps it was stubbornness, perhaps it was reluctance to learn a new system, but I didn't figure out Pathways. And for the past number of years, I've simply signed up for various roles at Toastmasters meetings, and that's all I've done is doing roles. And I think that alone speaks to how great Toastmasters is, in the sense that you can simply sign up for roles and get a ton out of the program. It's time for me to give up the stubbornness and finally embrace the Toastmasters Pathways program. Now, this is great because the path I'm taking on is Motivational Strategies, and what this means for you is that you'll get to see my journey documented. I plan to video record the speeches that I will be doing and share that on my YouTube channel so that you can follow along. And I wanted to start that journey right now because I am preparing for the Icebreaker speech, which is the first step in many of the paths, probably all of the paths, definitely for Motivational Strategies. And so as I'm preparing my own speech, I wanted to give you some helpful tips for how you can take on the Icebreaker speech as well. My first piece of advice is to not stress too much about the Icebreaker, which is easier said than done, because your first speech at Toastmasters, you're going to feel a certain level of pressure, but please know that is normal and it doesn't have to be perfect. The Icebreaker is all about establishing where you are in your journey with Toastmasters. And from there, I promise you will grow. The more meetings that you attend, there's no question your skill set will get better. You're not supposed to be perfect at speech number 1. There's various abilities that people have coming into Toastmasters, but the Icebreaker is just about identifying where you are at. Next, you're going to think about what should your Icebreaker speech be about. And for many people, they talk about why they chose to join Toastmasters. And that's a fine topic to take on, but you're not limited to that. You can speak about whatever you'd like. Some questions you can ask yourself: what are you passionate about? What are your future goals? What are your hobbies? What was your upbringing like? Hopefully these are questions that stir some ideas forward, and this could be the topic of your Icebreaker. It's whatever you want to present on for your club. One of the best ways to approach a Toastmasters Icebreaker speech is to incorporate personal stories. And so I want you to do something right now. I want you to pull out a piece of paper or your phone and the notes app within your phone, and I want you to write down 5 stories that you know are stories that usually get a good reaction from the people you tell these stories to. So perhaps you've told friends this story at the pub, or you've told a story at family gatherings. Maybe it gets lots of laughs. Maybe it's really interesting or something that defied all odds. Whatever these stories are, I want you to come up with 5 right now and write those down. And then if there's any way to incorporate one of these stories into your Icebreaker speech, I encourage you to do so, because when we tell a story that is familiar to us within a speech, it makes it so much easier to remember, and usually it makes the speech more engaging as well. The Icebreaker speech is a great chance to start understanding basic speech structure, and there are 3 elements to any speech: a beginning or an introduction, a middle, and a conclusion. The introduction does just that. It introduces to the audience what the speech is going to be about. As you get more advanced, you'll learn to do introductions that hook the audience's attention, but that's not what you're worried about right now. The middle of the speech, or the body, is the main structure. Maybe there's 3 main points to your speech. If you're doing a speech about public speaking fear and why you've joined Toastmasters, maybe part 1 of the body is a horrifying situation you had when a speech didn't go well. The second point might be the realization that you needed to improve this skill set. And the third point might be what you hope to accomplish through Toastmasters. So that's the body, usually 3 or 5 main points that build the structure of the speech. And the conclusion, it wraps everything up. It brings everything together. It may recap all of the body pieces that you've already talked about, but it's a good way to finish your speech. And these 3 elements are usually a key part of any great presentation. Now, it's completely reasonable to assume that you're going to use notes when you deliver your icebreaker speech, but I will tell you, one of the goals you want to aim for with Toastmasters is eventually not having to read speeches word for word off of a piece of paper. So if it's at all possible to reduce those notes, rather than writing out a full speech word for word, try using key bullet points that will jog your memory, and that even if you freeze while you're presenting in front of the audience, you can quickly glance down, see your bullet point note, and that will remind you what to talk about next. I promise you, a limited use of notes is an incredibly rare and impressive thing to see for any icebreaker speech. So if you're able to accomplish that, thumbs up. That is just you jumping steps ahead on your Toastmasters journey. The next thing to know about a Toastmasters icebreaker speech is the formalities. There are these interesting formalities that are used at Toastmasters meetings. Thank you, Mr. Toastmaster. Thank you, Madam Table Topics Master. All of these different terms that you may not be used to. The one to remember is that there will be a Toastmaster introducing you and the fact that you're giving the icebreaker speech. So at some point you want to say, thank you, Mr. or Madam Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters, and welcome guests, if there are any guests who are in the audience. This is the formality. If you don't say it perfectly, don't worry about it. There's a lot of time to figure this out, and eventually it will become second nature. But if you're able to include the formalities, bonus points on your icebreaker. My last piece of advice for taking on the icebreaker speech is to practice more than you think you need to. And I know I said earlier not to stress about this, and you shouldn't. This is a representation of where you're at. But I will say, for every speech you give in the future, the better speeches or the better you will do is directly correlated with how much you practice. And you want to make sure that you felt that you gave it your best effort for that first speech. So without stressing too much, still give yourself a minimum 3 or 4 times to practice the speech in its entirety. If you want to go more than that, go for it. But minimum, practice that speech 3 or 4 times in the week leading up, and I know it's going to go great. And whether the speech goes fantastic or absolutely horrible, don't worry. This is what Toastmasters is all about. It is a safe place to learn. It is a safe place to grow. And this is just the beginning of your Toastmasters journey. Heck, I'm someone who's been in it for 9 years. I haven't even done pathways yet. And that's something I'm really excited about, is that you'll get to follow along on my journey. I will be posting my own icebreaker pretty soon here, which hopefully gives you some added inspiration. I hope this video was encouraging and helpful for you. If it was, please subscribe to my channel. That's the best way that you can support me and what I do. And I want to share this video popping up on the screen right now, because this is something I mentioned before about building a speech with a great introduction, hooking your audience. So I think that this video is going to add a lot of value to you.